Hey guys, on this next episode, we are going to discuss the black-haired man on the far right, the younger man in the sketch. We are going to figure out who this gentleman is and who this gentleman is not. Hey guys, on this next episode, we are going to discuss the black-haired man on the far right, a man by the name of Jersey Ron. He is not James Cruz. Okay, for those of you that are unfamiliar with James Cruz was a long-haul truck driver that killed a 17-year-old girl that he considered a lot lizard by ligature strangulation in Center County, Pennsylvania. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on March 13th, 1994. Now, this was 3 years after Brenda Condon went missing. And her body was the 17-year-old girl by the name of Dawn Marie Birnbaum was found between Route 26 and 550 of Pennsylvania, not far from Carlsbad Tavern. I think that's why he's considered a suspect by a lot of the locals. And the state police did their due diligence and ruled out that he can't be linked to any other murders or disappearances. So he's doing time in the state pen. After they arrested Mr. Cruz, they put together this task force and coordinated an effort to try and prove that James' involvement in the unsung string of murders in the area, that he had some involvement, but they couldn't prove anything. So they abandoned those efforts. And here we are, still trying to figure out who's responsible for Brenda's disappearance. And like I said, I believe that the guy on the far right has been identified as Ron. Now, the person that identified the guy on the right as Ron was a local bartender. This woman worked out of the Days Inn. Now, she was a bartender at the Days Inn, and Ron and his crew would stay at the Days Inn. Remember, Ron was living in New Jersey, and he was working down in Snowshoe, working for Waste Management, working on a reclamation project on a mine shaft. And Ron would frequent the bar at night. Ron would hang out at the bar, drink, and flirt with this bartender. And this was on a daily basis. And this woman recognized Ron from the sketch. And she had an encounter with Ron one night where Ron was able to get her into his room. And Ron's been trying to get her into his room for a little while, but I guess this night she decided that she'd be willing to partake. And she said that during their intimacy, Ron proceeded to choke her from behind. And that scared this woman, and she got dressed and left. Now, to me, that is a red flag. Now, I did a little research, and it turns out that this choking your partner, the person that you're intimate with, is it's a form of BDSM, which is some sort of fetish, but it is to be done between two consenting adults, and there needs to be some kind of safe word or safe gesture to let the person choking you know that it's too much. They need to stop. Okay, because ultimately you could lose your life if somebody chokes you for too long. You could. Antonia Hall, a psychologist, sex educator, and author, said, quote, accidents do happen even with consensual choking, unquote. It could cost you your life. I mean, I understand people like to indulge in this breath play, BDSM, kink, call what you will, but when it's not consensual, yeah, it comes off as creepy. So more about Ron. He enjoyed playing pool, and on this one occasion, this bartender that he was seeing that went to his room that we discussed playfully bumped his pool stick, and Ron got angry. But we get a little taste of his personality knowing this. Okay. And another thing is Carlsbad Tavern has several pool tables. Ron ends up venturing over to Carlsbad Tavern. Ron was intrigued by the name Carlsbad Tavern. He thought the name was interesting and he liked the whole bad name. I think it fit his persona, how he liked to view himself. So fast forward to the night that Brenda disappeared. Ron's crew was in that bar, according to one of the team members. According to one of the team members, that they were all in that bar that night. And when they went to leave, Ron decided he was having such a good time. He was hitting it off with Brenda. He decided to stay. And the rest of the crew, they went back to the Days Inn, where they stayed the rest of the night. So that leaves Ron in there with Brenda that night. As we can see by the sketch, we can prove by that sketch that that was indeed Ron, by the bartender that worked at the Days Inn. Of course, if you look at the diagram of the inside of the building, surely he could have been in there. Just conceivably been in there, and he was friends with Brenda since they were hitting it off so well, right? And he liked to hang out at the Days Inn with this other bartender until late. He liked to hang out at the end of the bar and just hang out all night, especially if he knew he had an opportunity to possibly sleep with one of the bartenders, which was Brenda. And we all know what happened that night. We know that she disappeared. Ron and the other men in the sketch that Marie identified, not by name, but identified him as being antisocial and being around a lot, and he would just observe. He was the other man. So Ron and the antisocial guy and the blue jacket, 6'2", 40 years old, estimated. These are the last two that can be confirmed by eyewitnesses that they were in Carlsbad Tavern that night, late. Nobody could confirm that he left that tavern that night. Now, Carlsbad Tavern closed at 1 o'clock on this February 26th evening. Anyway, they closed at 1 a.m. The last witness of a patron in there said that Brenda was still serving someone at 1:15. So 15 minutes past closing, she's still serving someone. And who that person is, could it be Ron? So we have 1:15 a.m. in the morning. We have two unidentified men. The reason why I say two is because the two older men are considered the same person. Okay, so now we have two unidentified men instead of three. The unidentified man left the bar with some other patrons at 1:15, and those patrons identified a customer that was unidentified, still being served at the bar at 1:15. So we have an unidentified man leaving the bar at 1:15 with the witnesses, and there was only one other unidentified man, and that was Ron, that was being served, because they said there was an unidentified man still being served at 1:15. The other unidentified man was leaving with them at 1:15. So that puts Ron at the bar at 1:15. Now, was Ron the last patron in the bar? In the next episode, I'm going to try to make some sense out of what exactly happened to Brenda Condon. We're going to try to put the puzzle pieces together and see a more clear picture. So stay tuned. See you on the next episode.